The harsh red sun of Zalin 7 beat down mercilessly on Captain Elias Cross as he trudged through the planet's vast, crimson desert. The fine, abrasive sand swirled in the wind, scratching against the visor of his helmet. He adjusted his exosuit's thermal regulators to compensate for the scorching heat, muttering curses under his breath. This was supposed to be a straightforward mission: survey the planet's surface for rare minerals, gather samples, and head back to his ship, the Luna Marauder. But like most of Cross's missions, nothing ever went as planned. He checked his scanner for the 100th time, expecting the usual readings of barren rock and patches of toxic vegetation. Instead, the device beeped, indicating a faint but steady life sign to the northeast. Cross frowned. According to the pre-mission briefing, this region was supposed to be lifeless. Curiosity piqued, he altered his course. As he made his way toward the signal, the landscape shifted. Jagged cliffs loomed overhead, their surfaces cracked and blackened, hinting at ancient volcanic activity. The air grew heavy with the scent of sulfur, and the ground beneath his boots felt warm like the planet itself was breathing. After about half an hour of hiking through the treacherous terrain, Cross reached a narrow canyon that split the desert like a scar. The life sign was close, its intensity increasing with every step he took. He activated his helmet's infrared filter and peered into the darkness ahead. A low, guttural moan echoed through the canyon, sending a chill down Cross's spine. He gripped his plasma rifle tighter and cautiously moved forward. As he rounded a corner, the sight before him nearly made him drop his weapon. There, slumped against the canyon wall, was an alien unlike anything Cross had ever seen. The creature towered over him, even while hunched over, with a body covered in thick, obsidian scales that reflected the dim light. For glowing, amber eyes blinked slowly, filled with a mixture of pain and fear. Its limbs were long and muscular, ending in razor-sharp claws. But the most striking feature was its swollen abdomen, which pulsed rhythmically as if something inside was trying to break free. Cross's instincts screamed at him to run, to get as far away from this monstrous being as possible. Yet, as he looked into those glowing eyes, he saw something that gave him pause, not the savage hunger of a predator, but the desperate plea of a creature in agony. He activated his suit's translator module, hoping it would somehow interpret the alien's language. He took a cautious step forward and spoke into his helmet's microphone. "Can you understand me? I'm here to help." The alien's eyes widened slightly, and it let out a series of clicks and guttural sounds. The translator struggled, spitting out broken fragments: pain, hatch, danger. Cross's heart raced as he realized what was happening. The creature was pregnant, and from the looks of it, in the final stages of labor. He hesitated. This wasn't part of his mission, and the protocol was clear: avoid contact with unknown alien species. But he couldn't just leave it here to die, especially if it was giving birth. All right, let's see what I can do," Cross muttered, more to himself than to the creature. He quickly set up a makeshift shelter using parts from his survival kit. The canopy shielded the creature from the scorching sun while Cross rummaged through his supplies. He found a vial of synthetic pain reliever and injected it into the alien's thick hide, hoping it wouldn't trigger an allergic reaction. The alien let out a low growl, its eyes narrowing, but after a moment, it relaxed slightly. Cross took this as a good sign. He crouched beside the creature, watching its abdomen pulse. The ground beneath him trembled as the alien's contractions grew more intense. "Come on, you can do this," Cross encouraged, though he had no idea if the creature could understand him. He felt utterly out of his depth. He was an explorer, not a doctor, and certainly not a midwife for alien monsters. Suddenly, the alien let out a bone-rattling roar that echoed through the canyon. Cross's hands flew to his ears, but it was too late. The sound left them ringing. With a final, agonized grunt, the creature's abdomen split open, releasing several large, translucent eggs that tumbled onto the sand, glistening in the harsh light. Cross stumbled back, breathing heavily, his eyes wide with disbelief. The eggs were nearly the size of watermelons, their surfaces slick with a strange, glowing fluid. Before he could catch his breath, his scanner beeped frantically again. More life signs? Cross muttered, checking the readings. This time, they were coming from the direction he had just come from, multiple signals, closing in fast. His heart sank. Whatever was out there, it was moving toward them, drawn by the scent of fresh eggs. The alien mother, now lying weakly on the ground, managed to lift her head. Her eyes met Cross's, and the translator finally managed to catch her garbled words. Protect them, predators come. Cross's mind raced. The creature was dying, but her last plea was clear: protect her unborn young. He looked at the eggs, then at the shadows that were now appearing on the canyon walls. There wasn't much time. Grabbing his plasma rifle, Cross took a defensive position in front of the eggs. The predators arrived in a flash, horrific, insect-like creatures with segmented bodies, mandibles that clicked menacingly, and eyes that gleamed with hunger. They were drawn to the eggs like sharks to blood. Not on my watch, Cross growled. He squeezed the trigger, sending searing plasma bolts into the oncoming swarm. The creatures shrieked as they were blasted apart, but for every one he took down, two more seemed to take its place. Cross's heart pounded in his chest as he realized he was being overwhelmed. He couldn't hold them off forever. Just as the creatures closed in on him, a strange sound came from behind. Cross turned in shock to see that the eggs were beginning to crack open. In a matter of moments, the hatchlings emerged, 7 small, yet ferocious-looking creatures, each a miniature version of their mother. Their eyes glowed a fierce amber, and their tiny claws glinted in the fading light. With an ear-piercing shriek, the newborns launched themselves at the predators. Despite their small size, they attacked with a ferocity that astonished Cross. They moved with blinding speed, tearing through the insectoid creatures like a whirlwind of teeth and claws. Cross stood there, stunned, as the tide of the battle turned. The hatchlings drove the predators back, shredding them to pieces with an almost instinctual precision. Within minutes, the sand was littered with the remains of the attackers. Breathing heavily, Cross turned to the alien mother, who was watching with dimming eyes. She gave him a final, grateful look before her head slumped forward. The life left her body, but her children were safe for now. The hatchlings, still covered in the blood of their enemies, turned to face Cross. For a tense moment, he wondered if they would turn on him next. But instead, they approached cautiously, their eyes filled with a curious light. One of them nuzzled his leg, a strange, purring sound rumbling from its throat. Cross let out a shaky breath. Well, I guess you're with me now. As he looked down at the hatchlings, he couldn't help but wonder what he had just gotten himself into. These creatures were more than just beasts, they were warriors in the making. But he had no idea just how quickly they would grow, or the challenges that awaited them. For now, all he could do was survive and figure out what to do with his unexpected new companions. The crimson skies of Zalan 7 had begun to darken, casting long shadows over the jagged landscape as Captain Elias Cross led his newfound companions back to the Luna Marauder. His ship, a worn but reliable interstellar freighter, was hidden within a small canyon, shielded from orbital scans by the planet's erratic magnetic fields. The hatchlings followed him in a loose pack, their glowing eyes darting in every direction, taking in their surroundings with a mixture of curiosity and wariness. Cross couldn't help but glance back at them every few seconds. Just hours ago, these creatures had been mere embryos encased in translucent eggs. Now, they moved with an agile confidence, their sharp claws clicking against the rocky ground as they navigated the terrain effortlessly. It was like they had been born ready to face the world. They grow fast, Cross muttered under his breath. Too fast. The hatchlings, perhaps sensing his anxiety, stayed close to him, forming a protective circle whenever he paused to check his surroundings. It was strange, he had expected them to be hostile, like wild animals defending their territory. But instead, they seemed to recognize him as their protector, or perhaps even their leader. The Luna Marauder came into view, its dark hull camouflaged against the rocky cliffs. Cross exhaled in relief as he keyed in the security code to open the ship's hatch. The ramp extended with a metallic hiss, and he waved the hatchlings inside. "All right, get in." "Welcome to your new, temporary home," Cross said, watching as the creatures hesitantly stepped aboard. They sniffed the air, their eyes flickering with an unearthly glow. The interior of the Luna Marauder was far from luxurious. It was a cluttered mess of storage crates, old navigation charts, and half-finished repair projects. The ship had seen better days, but it was still functional, a testament to Cross's skills as a pilot and mechanic. The hatchlings explored their new surroundings with cautious curiosity, poking their snouts into every corner. One of them began gnawing on a loose cable, and Cross quickly swatted it away. "Hey, don't eat that." "I need that for communications," he scolded, though his tone was more exasperated than angry. The creature tilted its head, emitting a low, rumbling purr that almost sounded like an apology. Cross shook his head, unable to suppress a grin. "Yeah, all right. Just try not to break anything." A mysterious connection. Once the hatchlings seemed settled, Cross made his way to the cockpit. He needed answers, and fast. Sitting down at the control panel, he began scanning through the data he had gathered during his initial encounter with the alien mother. The readings were unlike anything he had seen before: rapid growth rates, extreme metabolic activity, and a genetic profile that seemed to be constantly shifting. As he pored over the data, he noticed something peculiar. Embedded in the genetic code of the hatchlings was a pattern A sequence that looked suspiciously like a form of telepathic communication. Cross leaned back, a chill running down his spine. "No way, can you understand me?" he asked aloud, turning to the hatchlings who had now gathered at the cockpit's entrance. The largest of the 7A creature, with slightly darker scales and a pair of ridged horns growing from its head, tilted its head at him. Its eyes narrowed, and Cross could swear he felt a faint ripple in his mind, like someone brushing against his thoughts. The sensation was fleeting, but it left him feeling strangely exposed. "Guess that's a yes," he muttered. "You're smarter than you look, aren't you?" The hatchlings chirped in unison, their eyes flashing as if in response. Cross felt another mental brush, this one more distinct. It was not words exactly, but rather a flood of emotions: gratitude, curiosity, and a hint of something that felt almost like loyalty. Before he could ponder the implications, the ship's proximity alarm blared, flooding the cockpit with red light. Cross spun around to check the sensors. Several unidentified crafts were descending rapidly from orbit, heading straight for his location. "Damn it! I knew it was too quiet out here," Cross cursed. The alien mother's dying words came back to him: "Danger, predators come." He had thought she meant the insectoid beasts they had fought earlier, but this was something far worse. The hatchlings hissed in alarm, their eyes glowing a fierce orange. Whatever was coming, they could sense it too. Cross quickly began activating the ship's defensive systems, but deep down, he knew the Luna Marauder was not equipped for a full-scale assault. The siege begins. A thunderous roar shook the ground as the first of the enemy ships landed just outside the canyon. Through the viewport, Cross could see figures disembarking: tall, armored creatures that looked like a cross between reptiles and machines. They moved with a ruthless efficiency, fanning out in search of their prize. Cross's fingers flew over the controls. "All right, we're not going down without a fight," he muttered, powering up the ship's external turrets. Plasma bolts erupted from the Luna Marauder, lighting up the darkening sky as they struck the approaching forces. But the enemy soldiers were prepared. They raised energy shields, deflecting the blasts, and returned fire. The ship's hull rattled as explosions rocked it from all sides. Cross gritted his teeth and pushed the engines to full power, trying to lift off, but the enemy had deployed an electromagnetic field, locking the ship in place. The hatchlings were growing agitated, their bodies twitching with energy. The largest one, the horned leader, let out a shriek that was so loud it made Cross's ears ring. In that moment, Cross felt another mental surge, clearer this time: we fight. Protect. They want the eggs. They won't stop until they get you, Cross said, looking into the glowing eyes of his alien companions. "But if you're willing to fight, let's give them hell." The hatchlings roared in unison, their voices echoing through the ship like a battle cry. Cross grabbed his plasma rifle and hit the button to open the cargo hold. The ramp lowered, revealing the battlefield outside. "All right, go!" Cross shouted. The hatchlings surged forward, leaping out of the ship and into the fray with a speed and ferocity that took the enemy by surprise. Cross watched in awe as they tore through the armored soldiers, their claws slicing through metal like it was paper. The air was filled with the sound of energy blasts, roars, and the shrieks of dying enemies. But the fight was far from over. More enemy reinforcements poured in from the sky, their numbers seemingly endless. Cross's heart pounded as he realized that he was running out of time. The Lunar Marauder was taking heavy damage, and if they didn't escape soon, they would be overwhelmed. Then, as if sensing his desperation, the horned hatchling turned to him, its eyes blazing. Cross felt another mental pulse, clearer than ever before. Together. Fight. Cross nodded, determination hardening in his chest. "All right, you big lizard. Let's do this together." He grabbed a pulse grenade from his belt and threw it into the densest cluster of enemy troops. The explosion sent debris and bodies flying, buying the hatchlings a moment of respite. The creatures moved with an eerie synchronicity, protecting Cross as he fought his way to the ship's damaged generator. "Just a few more seconds, come on!" Cross shouted as he frantically rerouted power. The generator roared to life, and the electromagnetic field holding the Lunar Marauder down flickered and died. "We're clear. Get back on board!" Cross yelled. One by one, the hatchlings bounded back into the ship. As the last one leaped aboard, Cross slammed the ramp shut and pulled the ship into a steep climb. The enemy fighters gave chase, but with a quick series of evasive maneuvers, the Lunar Marauder shot through the atmosphere, leaving the chaos of the battlefield behind. Breathing heavily, Cross turned to his alien companions. The hatchlings were battered, their scales scarred from the fight, but their eyes still glowed with that fierce, unwavering loyalty. "You saved my life back there," Cross said, feeling a strange lump in his throat. "Guess that makes us even." The largest hatchling, the one with the horns, gave a low, rumbling growl that almost sounded like laughter. Cross smiled. He had no idea what the future held, but one thing was certain: these creatures were more than just monsters. They were warriors, and they were on his side. But as the ship hurtled into the safety of deep space, Cross couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning of a much larger battle. The familiar hum of the Lunar Marauder's engines reverberated through the ship as it sailed through the depths of space. Captain Elias Cross leaned back in his pilot's chair, finally allowing himself a moment to breathe. They had barely escaped the surface of Xalan 7 with their lives, but for now, they were safe, or at least safer than they'd been on the ground. The hatchlings, his unexpected companions, were resting in the cargo hold. Cross had managed to patch up the ship's hull and reroute power to the main systems, but the Lunar Marauder was still far from battle-ready. Sweat trickled down his forehead as he checked the scanner for any signs of pursuit. The enemy ships that had ambushed them on Xalan 7 seemed to have pulled back for now. "All right, Cross," he muttered to himself, rubbing his temples. "What's the plan? Can't keep flying aimlessly forever." The cargo hold was filled with the soft, rumbling snores of the exhausted hatchlings. Cross had managed to jury-rig some containment fields to keep them from tearing up the ship in their sleep. It was a temporary solution at best. They were growing fast, too fast for him to handle alone. He needed to figure out what they were, why they had bonded with him, and what to do next. He made his way down to the cargo hold, pausing outside the sealed door. Taking a deep breath, he keyed in the access code. The door slid open with a hiss, revealing the darkened bay. Cross's jaw dropped. Where he had expected to see the small, fierce creatures he had rescued from the planet, there now stood 7 towering figures. In the span of a single night, the hatchlings had undergone an unbelievable transformation. No longer small and spindly, they were now fully grown, hulking warriors, each standing at nearly 7 feet tall. Their scales had hardened into a gleaming armor-like texture, and their claws and teeth had become even more formidable. The largest of them, the one with the twin horns, now sported a ridged crest along its back that crackled faintly with blue energy. How is this even possible? Cross whispered to himself. The hatchlings turned to him in unison, their glowing eyes reflecting the dim light of the cargo bay. The largest one, the leader of the group, stepped forward and let out a low, rumbling growl that sent vibrations through the floor. Cross could feel the pulse of energy ripple through his mind, a telepathic connection, stronger than before. Drone. Protect, the thought voice resonated in his head, clearer than it had ever been. Cross shook his head in disbelief. You've grown overnight? That's impossible. No species grows that quickly. But the evidence was right in front of him. The creatures he had saved had undergone some kind of rapid evolutionary process, transforming into fully matured warriors in a matter of hours. The implications were staggering, but there was no time to analyze the situation further. Before Cross could ask more questions, the proximity alarm blared once again. His heart sank as he sprinted back to the cockpit, the alien warriors close behind him. The scanner showed multiple contacts dropping out of warp just outside their position. Damn it! Cross cursed, his fingers flying over the controls. They found us again. Through the viewport, Cross could see enemy ships emerging from the swirling blue of hyperspace. This time, it wasn't just small attack vessels. There was a massive dreadnought at the center of the fleet, bristling with weapons. Its dark hull reflected the light of distant stars, a menacing behemoth that seemed to swallow the surrounding darkness. The horned alien warrior stepped up beside Cross, its eyes narrowing as it studied the incoming fleet. Cross felt another telepathic pulse, this time a mixture of determination and resolve. Fight. Protect you, the thought came through clearly. Cross glanced at the creature, a mix of fear and hope surging through him. You think we can take them? There's too many. The alien let out a growl that sounded almost like a battle cry, and the other 6 warriors joined in, their voices creating a deep, resonant chorus. Cross took a deep breath. All right then. If you're willing to fight, we'll make them regret ever coming after us. Preparing for battle. Cross's mind raced as he tried to formulate a plan. The Lunar Marauder was outgunned and outnumbered, but now he had a new weapon, the 7 alien warriors who had somehow bonded with him. He quickly rerouted power to the ship's shields and weapons, knowing full well that they wouldn't hold for long against the firepower of a dreadnought. Turning to the warriors, Cross gestured toward the airlock. I'm going to get you close to that big ship. If you can board it, maybe you can sabotage their systems from the inside. The horned leader gave a nod, a gesture that almost seemed human. Cross could feel their confidence in his mind, a fierce, primal desire to protect their newfound leader. He just hoped he wasn't sending them on a suicide mission. As the enemy fighters closed in, Cross banked the ship hard to the left, evading a barrage of plasma fire. The hull rattled as energy blasts struck the shields, but they held for now. He guided the Lunar Marauder into a steep dive, heading straight for the dreadnought's underbelly. Now! Cross shouted as the ship closed in. The airlock doors slid open, and the 7 warriors leapt into the void, propelled by their powerful legs. Cross watched in awe as they soared through space, using their claws to cling to the dreadnought's armored hull. They moved with an almost supernatural grace, slipping between the ship's defensive turrets. Cross kept the Lunar Marauder circling, providing cover fire as best as he could. His eyes flicked to the scanner, praying that the warriors would succeed in their mission. If they could disable the dreadnought's shields, they might have a chance. Minutes ticked by, feeling like an eternity. Then, suddenly, the lights on the enemy dreadnought flickered. The massive ship's weapons powered down, and Cross knew the warriors had succeeded in sabotaging its systems. Got you now, Cross muttered, unleashing the full power of the Lunar Marauder's plasma cannons. The dreadnought's hull buckled under the barrage, explosions ripping through its structure. Cross whooped in triumph as the massive ship began to break apart, its pieces scattering into the void. A new alliance. As the enemy fleet retreated, the alien warriors made their way back to the Lunar Marauder, leaping through space with ease. Cross opened the airlock to let them back in, his heart swelling with a mix of relief and awe. "You did it," Cross said, unable to hide the admiration in his voice. "I don't know what you are, but you're incredible." The largest warrior, the one with the horns, approached him. Cross felt a surge of warmth and gratitude flood his mind, stronger than ever before. Together. Protect each other, the thought came through, accompanied by an image of Cross and the warriors standing side by side, facing a common enemy. Cross nodded, understanding their message. Whatever these creatures were, they had chosen him as their protector, and in turn, he had chosen them. They were no longer just hatchlings or monsters. They were a team, a family of sorts, bound by the fires of battle. But even as they celebrated their victory, Cross couldn't shake the feeling that this was just the beginning. The forces that had pursued them would not give up so easily, especially now that he had taken their prize. As the Lunar Marauder drifted through the quiet expanse of space, Cross turned to the Horned Warrior. "Looks like we've made some powerful enemies. But with you by my side, maybe we've got a fighting chance." The warrior let out a low, rumbling growl that Cross had come to recognize as laughter. "All right then," Cross said, setting a new course on the navigation console. "Let's see where this adventure takes us next." Whatever lay ahead, Cross knew one thing for sure: they were no longer alone. They were warriors, and together, they would face whatever the galaxy threw at them. The Lunar Marauder hurtled through the void of space, its engines blazing against the star-streaked darkness. Captain Elias Cross gripped the controls, his jaw clenched as he pushed the ship to its limits. The recent victory against the enemy dreadnought had given them a brief reprieve, but as they cruised away, the sensors flashed red again. More enemy signatures. "They're not letting up," Cross muttered. "These bastards really want you." He cast a quick glance over his shoulder at the 7 alien warriors who stood silently behind him, their glowing eyes locked on the scanner display. The largest one, the horned leader, growled softly, a sound that vibrated through Cross's mind with a single word: return. "What? You want to go back to Zalan 7? Cross asked, incredulous. That planet was swarming with enemies. You barely made it out alive. But the thought was insistent, accompanied by an image of the crimson sands and jagged cliffs of Zalan 7. The horned warrior communicated a sense of urgency, mixed with something Cross hadn't felt before: fear. "What's there that's so important?" Cross demanded, but he already knew the answer. The warriors needed to return to their birthplace, not out of sentiment, but because something vital had been left behind. Something they couldn't afford to lose. Cross sighed, rubbing his temples. "Fine. Let's go back. But if we're doing this, we need a plan." With a flick of his wrist, he set the ship on a course back to Zalan 7, bracing himself for the battle that was sure to come. The hatchlings, now fully grown and transformed into lethal warriors, stood ready. Cross didn't know what they were up against, but he was certain of one thing: they wouldn't go down without a fight. The descent into chaos. As the Lunar Marauder re-entered the atmosphere of Zalan 7, the ship's hull shook violently. The red skies were alight with plasma fire as enemy ships patrolled the airspace, scouring the surface for any signs of resistance. Cross's hands were steady on the controls as he maneuvered through the chaos, narrowly avoiding incoming blasts. "Hang on," he shouted to the warriors, who braced themselves against the walls of the cargo bay. The ship banked hard to the left, dodging a barrage of laser fire. Cross pushed the engines to their limit, aiming for a narrow canyon that would provide temporary cover. Once they were safely in the shadow of the cliffs, Cross activated the ship's stealth systems, bringing them down in a secluded spot hidden from enemy scanners. The hatch opened, and the warriors leapt out onto the familiar sands. As they sniffed the air, a low growl echoed from the horned leader, signaling danger. Cross followed them out, his boots sinking into the crimson sand. The planet felt different. There was an oppressive energy in the air, a sense that something terrible was brewing. "All right," he said, checking his rifle's energy levels. "We need to move fast." "What are we looking for?" The horned warrior didn't respond in words, but sent Cross a vivid mental image, a hidden cavern deep within the canyon, its entrance concealed by thick, jagged rocks. Inside, Cross saw an image of something that looked like an altar surrounded by glowing crystals. The message was clear: whatever lay hidden there was the key to the warriors' survival and perhaps their origins. "We find the cavern, retrieve whatever's inside, and get out," Cross said, nodding. "Let's move." The cavern of secrets. The warriors moved with fluid precision, their senses honed to detect even the slightest hint of danger. Cross followed close behind, using his scanner to guide them through the maze-like network of canyons. The deeper they went, the darker it became, the sunlight barely penetrating the high rock walls above. After an hour of tense navigation, they reached a dead end. The horned leader stopped abruptly, its eyes narrowing as it scanned the rock face in front of them. With a powerful swipe of its claws, it shattered a section of the wall, revealing a hidden passageway that sloped downward into darkness. Cross clicked on his helmet's light. "Let's hope this leads where we need to go." As they descended, the air grew colder, and the walls began to glow faintly with strange, bioluminescent patterns. Cross's mind was bombarded with fragmented thoughts and emotions from the warriors' anticipation, fear, and a deep sense of urgency. Whatever they were seeking, it was close. The tunnel opened into a vast underground chamber. At its center stood an ancient, alien altar covered in glyphs that pulsed with a soft, blue light. Surrounding the altar were large, crystal-like structures that crackled with energy. Cross's eyes widened as he realized that these were no ordinary crystals. They were some form of organic technology, pulsing with life. Before Cross could get closer, a booming voice echoed through the chamber. "You should not have returned." Cross spun around, his rifle raised. Emerging from the shadows was a towering figure clad in dark, ornate armor. It was one of the reptilian enemies they had fought before, but this one was different, larger, more menacing, with a dark aura that seemed to warp the air around it. The warriors roared, their eyes blazing with fury. The horned leaders sent Cross a clear message: protector of the source. Must destroy. "So, you're the one they're afraid of," Cross muttered, aiming his rifle. "Let's see what you've got." The armored figure unleashed a wave of dark energy, slamming into the warriors and throwing Cross off his feet. The warriors recovered quickly, charging forward with terrifying speed. Claws and teeth met the armored figure's energy blades in a blinding clash of sparks and shrieks. Cross scrambled to his feet, firing his plasma rifle at the figure, but it was shielded by a shimmering barrier. "Damn it," he cursed. "How do we break through?" The horned warrior, locked in combat with the armored enemy, sent a desperate pulse to Cross. The answer was at the altar. Whatever power the crystals held could disrupt the enemy's shield. Cross sprinted toward the altar, dodging blasts of dark energy that sizzled past him. He reached the structure and placed his hands on its surface. Instantly, a surge of energy shot through him, linking him to the warriors. Images and thoughts flooded his mind, memories of battles, a dying world, and the purpose of the hatchlings. They were bred to protect something ancient and powerful. With a roar, Cross focused the energy from the altar and directed it toward the enemy. A beam of blue light shot out, striking the armored figure's shield. The barrier flickered, then shattered like glass. The warriors seized the opportunity. The horned leader leapt forward, sinking its claws into the enemy's exposed chest. The others joined in, tearing the figure apart with primal fury. Within moments, the chamber was filled with the sound of ripping metal and the dying screams of the enemy commander. A new beginning. As the dust settled, the crystals around the altar dimmed, their energy depleted. Cross collapsed to his knees, panting, his mind reeling from the psychic connection he had just experienced. The horned warrior approached him, gently nudging his shoulder. "You saved," the thought came, soft and grateful. Cross looked up at the towering creature, a weary smile crossing his face. No, we saved each other. And I think I finally understand. The altar had not just been a source of power, it was a repository of knowledge, containing the history of the alien species. The hatchlings were not mindless beasts, but the last guardians of a dying civilization. The enemy had sought to control this power, but the warriors had chosen Cross as their protector, trusting him to help them fulfill their ancient duty. As they made their way back to the Luna Marauder, Cross couldn't help but feel a newfound sense of purpose. He wasn't just an explorer anymore, he was now part of something much larger than himself, a protector of a species that had no one else. Back on the ship, Cross set a new course away from Xalan 7. The galaxy was vast, filled with unknown dangers, but now he had allies, warriors who would fight by his side. Together, they would face whatever came next, bound by the unspoken promise that they would protect each other, no matter the cost. As the stars blurred into streaks of light outside the viewport, Cross turned to his newfound family. Let's see what other secrets the galaxy has for us, shall we? The horned warrior gave a low, rumbling growl of agreement, and the Luna Marauder shot off into the stars, ready for whatever new adventures awaited them.